Is it time to hit the panic button, or is it time to pivot a little bit? Welcome to PHLY Phillies podcast. We've got Tyler, Zulli, and myself, Renee, Washington. Jamie is not in with us today. It's just the two of us holding down the fort.
Jamie's not in with us ever.
Well, you know what? We booted Jamie off the island like mad. People want the Phillies to boot Taijuan Walker off the team.
What is it, Survivor?
I will say it is Survivor, Tyler, actually. I will say, though, we've got a lot to talk through, so it might be best that it's just the two of us because it gives us plenty of time to dive into this because we've got to talk about Taijuan Walker, Spencer Turnbull, the injuries, the results, Ranger Suarez, looking ahead to London, looking ahead to Rhys Hoskins' return to Citizens Bank Park, guys. Happy Monday. Happy Monday. Where do we begin? All right. In the chat, great to see all of our friends here. You guys are already getting the conversation going. Chris Slemmer, Frank, John, Scott, Provolone John, Dave P. Let's start with the most pressing matter of them all, Taijuan Walker. Because as we know, Taijuan Walker has not been pitching well ever since his return to the Phillies. And we've been watching it with a really close eye because of how well Spencer Turnbull had been pitching. An all-star level start to the season for Spencer, which added more pressure when Taijuan Walker returned. So, of course, Sunday, back at home, another chance to close out the series against the Cardinals with a sweep, to get another win at home, to continue the excitement of the home success that we've seen from the Phillies. But instead, the Phillies dropped their sixth game of the season in extra innings. So 6 of their 19 losses, as our own John Foley calculated, have been extra innings. 7 of their losses have been by 1 run. They broke the streak at home, Tyler, because they had been on a nice home winning streak. That came to an end. And most importantly, because the way it came to an end, Taijuan Walker, and it doesn't have people very excited, in fact, very angry about the way that we're continuing to see Taijuan Walker pitch. Before we even get into numbers, first thoughts on the weekend, because last you and I spoke, it was Friday night post-game show, and a lot has happened since then.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we talked about this before the weekend started. Your goal in this series, and your goal in every series, is to win the series. Sweeps are really hard.
Yeah.
I know that we talked about the Cardinals not being not your father's Cardinals. We keep saying that phrase, but they have played better as of late. They were 12-3 coming into the series. Obviously, they dropped the first 2, and Saturday I got to give just a massive shout out to the bullpen and Spencer Turnbull in general, or specifically because they were tremendous. Obviously, Ranger exits early with the injury. We're all holding our breath. And the bullpen was really, really good. And the bullpen's been really good all year, and specifically in this series. Yesterday's game, the bullpen was solid up until the extra inning, ghost runner thing. But they did what they were supposed to do. They took care of business. They won 2 out of 3. And I think that the result, yesterday's loss, is a lot more palatable than how it happened is the more deep dive issue than the actual loss itself. You're going to lose games. Sweeps are hard. It doesn't matter if you're playing a Major League Baseball team or you're playing, 9 people from PHLY. Sweeps are hard.
They are. And that's the thing. We understand that sweeps are great. We enjoy them, but it's not, it's just about winning the series. And they did that. And I know as you guys are talking in the chat, Patrick, Linda, good morning. K-Red, good morning. Jackie Moon. To me, the most pressing thing that I know, Tyler, you and I spoke about was it's not really the results of the weekend. Obviously, we're not thrilled with the fact that the Phillies lost. You don't ever want to see them lose, but we know what's going to happen. It's how they lost, and it starts with Taijuan Walker. So Taijuan Walker, very first pitch of the game, gives up a single. And I was like, oh boy, Mason Wynn, who's been having a great season, whatever, yada, yada, yada. We heard it all on the broadcast. I was like, is this a Cardinals broadcast or is this supposed to just be a generic Sunday Night Baseball broadcast? But apparently we were the Cardinals broadcast in the beginning. So it was all downhill from there. We also saw him give up 2 2-run home runs in the first inning, in the third inning, and finishing the night with 4 hits, 4 earned runs, walked 3, gave up those 2 homers, struck out 5, and did last 5 innings. But when you look at the fact that Taijuan Walker allowed 6 balls at 100 miles per hour or harder, and his ERA after tonight increased because, as I mentioned before, every game, unfortunately, his ERA has gotten worse. So we're seeing the amount of runs that Taijuan Walker is giving up, the amount of, the way his ERA is going is trending in the wrong direction. Now has a 5.73 ERA when he came in with a 5.51 ERA he came in with. It increased after last night to a 5.73 ERA, a 1.59 WHIP on the season. And the hardest part about it all, as Rob Thompson spoke about him post game, he was saying, Walker left the ball up a couple times. The 2 home runs were cutters left out over the plate. His command, he's seen his command be better, but he's got to keep the ball down. And he knows that, and they're just going to keep working on it. How long are we going to keep working on this? We've all talked about it before. When do you pull the plug on Taijuan Walker and make a tough decision? We know that Taijuan Walker is another player, much like we've talked to Nick Castellanos. A lot of money there behind Taijuan Walker, still very early on in his deal. But when you see Spencer Turnbull the night before, after Ranger Suarez went out, go in, have another scoreless outing for Spencer Turnbull. The fans were cheering it last night, Tyler. We want Bull, because that's what we call him, Bull. We want Bull.
Do? We do or you do?
The fans were saying we want Bull. I'm just quoting them.
Okay.
But I would like to see Bull as well. Bullshit or no Bull? Bull or no Bull? Do we want Bull? It's just hard because 24 hours after Spencer Turnbull, in all seriousness, had another really strong showing. You saw Taijuan Walker from the very first pitch giving up hits, and then the very first inning, you're already down 2-0.
So I'm going to preface everything. I'm going to preface everything that I'm about to say with a disclaimer, with a caveat, whatever you want to call it. If your major concern is your 5th starter, you're in a good spot. You're in a really good spot if your major concern is if your 5th starter or your long man / 5B, well, he's really 5A, but you know what I'm trying to say, is going to be the guy that is the guy moving forward. But this is where the, comma, but, it's kind of like when you say to somebody, no offense, but, and then whatever you're going to say next is absolutely offensive. This is where the comma, but comes in. Taijuan Walker is a very predictable pitcher. Taijuan Walker is the type of guy who you know what you're going to get from him most starts. Yeah. The first inning is a problem. The first time through the order is a problem. So far this year, guys are hitting 355 off of Taijuan Walker the first time through the order. 4 home runs. They've driven in 13 runs. They've struck out just 12 times. He's given up 22 hits in 62 at-bats. The second time through the order, that number dips significantly. In 52 at-bats, he's only given up 13 hits. Now, the home run has plagued him a little bit. 3 of those 13 hits are home runs, but the average dips from 355 to 250 the second time through the order. So you kind of know the type of pitcher that you're going to get in Taijuan Walker. You know, Taijuan Walker's diminished velocity has become a point of contention for a lot of people. Walker, in the beginning of his career, was throwing 95, 94, 95, 96, and now he's throwing 89, 90, 91. And all of these things, Renee, I think, all of the problems, the first inning issues, the inability to get a shutdown inning like you saw last night, the Phil scratch back and get 2, he gives 2 right back. The low velocity, the lack of command, because as you mentioned, Topper said couple of times he missed his spots. Well, he's missed his spots quite a bit. Yeah. All of that, Renee, I think can be excused. I think could be excused if it weren't for the simple fact that Taijuan Walker's best pitch, his splitter, which was the pitch he used most frequently last year, threw it almost 1,000 times, to a lot of success, by the way, has been absolutely horrendous this season. Yeah. Guys have hit 452 off of his splitter. He has a -5 run value. Splits, 452, 667. They're whiffing at just 14%. They're striking out at just 13%. Now, obviously, a little bit of hard luck losing with the expected batting average at 336. Right. The hard hit rate is at 57%. Last year, guys hit 205 off that pitch and struck out at nearly 22%. I could almost excuse everything else that Taijuan Walker has to offer because we kind of know what he has to offer.
Right.
If the splitter was good. The splitter's been downright pathetic to start his 2024 season. That's my biggest concern with him.
Yeah, I know in the chat, let us know what your biggest concerns are, because I see you guys are also talking through, in regards to last night's loss, the extra runner rule, as Ed Wright's bringing up, you're talking through other things. But listen, I think it had me wondering, was Taijuan Walker's return too soon? Was he maybe not ready? Because, and I don't know the answer to that. And listen, I think with the way that Spencer Turnbull had been pitching, and Taijuan Walker was a little bit ahead of his rehab schedule, it kind of made sense in their eyes to bring him back early. But I don't know if he was ready, because again, as you talk about, his first innings have been bad. The first time through the batting order is not good at all. And not to mention, I think what makes me the most concerned of all his stats is that he is progressively getting worse. Like every game. So his very first return back, guys, just for context, was an 8.53 ERA back in April in his first game against San Diego. Then it went down to a 6.39 ERA. So it's like, okay, first 2 games back, he gave up in those first 2 games a total of 9 runs in the first 2 outings. Not good at all. Then it did drop, though. That third game back, he only gave up 1 run. He went a total of 6 innings. This was against Miami, though, so take it for whatever you want. But it doesn't matter. It still is a baseball team. Against Miami in his third game, he gave up 1 run. He gave up 8 hits. He went 6 innings. Solid 4.89 ERA. Okay, we're getting some progress here. Walker's getting better. He's settling in. Ever since that game on May 11th, his ERA has continuously worsened game by game. The amount of hits and runs he's giving up has also worsened game by game. May 11th, he gave up 1 run. May 16th, he gave up 2 runs. May 22nd, he gave up 3 runs. May 27th, he gave up 6 runs in 6 innings. And then, of course, yesterday, he gave up 4 runs in 5 innings on 5 hits. The numbers are showing he's trending in the wrong direction, which makes me wonder, like I said, was he rushed back and maybe not really ready? Because he might have been seeming ready at the rehab assignment, but as we know, in the majors, it's a completely different ballgame. Having to be ready to go in front of 45,000 fans that are not going to sit back quietly and let you give up runs and give up home runs. They're going to let you know they're not happy with it. Was it also just too much too soon for him to be pitching 4, 5, 6 innings? Maybe in the beginning, it should have been 3 innings like we had talked about, 3, 4 innings, and ease him back in. Unfortunately, at this point, the past can't be changed. It's a matter of what can you do moving forward, because we know that Taijuan Walker the command is not there. As you mentioned, Tyler, the numbers are horrific, especially in the first inning. And he is messing up the fact that the Phillies have consistently, in about 65% of their games, been first to score, jumped out on teams. Yet when Taijuan Walker is on the mound, that is not the case. They go down 2-0. They played from behind all game yesterday. So yes, we can always complain about, and we'll talk about it, Bryce Harper and the, extra inning rules and all these other things. But it started from the jump. And then it went from there, that the team was constantly playing catch up already on a day where you had Whit Merrifield out there. You didn't have, Cody Clemens was a late scratch. Edmundo Sosa dealing with a hamstring injury. You lose Brandon Marsh late in the game. This is why when we talk about the strength of the pitching, you can't take for granted how well the Phillies starters have been pitching, because they've been giving you that insurance, the comfort of knowing, regardless what happens offensively, regardless if there's an injury, regardless of anything that happens, the pitchers have been doing a good job keeping opponents off the scoreboard and allowing the Phillies to work through their stuff, take the lead, and feel confident. But when you're now playing from behind yet again, and then things start going wrong, to add insult to injury or injury to insult, depending on how you want to look at it, it makes it feel like Murphy's rule, like whatever can go wrong will go wrong at this point, or Murphy's law, I guess.
Yeah. So, you talked about the command, and so the splitter is the big concern for me, but I think command in general is a major issue. Now, I've got 4 different pitch locations for you.
Okay.
These are Taijuan Walker's 4 most frequently used pitches this season so far: the sinker, the sweeper, the splitter, and the 4-seam. So realistically speaking, it's some people like the split finger fastball is, I don't typically consider a splitter a fastball, although a lot of, you can't, if you do, you're not wrong. If you don't, you're not wrong.
Right.
I think that like sinker's definitely a variation of a fastball, obviously 2-seam, cutter, 4-seam. I think that while it's traditionally called a split finger fastball, I think it's got so much dip that I'm willing to move it into like a breaking ball, like a heavy breaking ball scenario.
Okay.
But regardless, whatever you want to call it, you're talking about a guy who at his worst is throwing some variation of a fastball about 41% of the time. And more realistically, if you consider the splitter, about 61% of the time. Look at these locations. These are a problem. The splitter needs to be down about another 4 inches. The sinker, if you look at that heat map, I mean, that couldn't be more middle if you tried. The 4-seam, I'm okay with that location where the heat map is the brightest red, especially if that's to left-handed hitters and you're barreling that fastball in on their hands a little bit. The sweeper, the one location's great, the other one is definitely not. But the 2 on the left-hand side are my biggest concern. The sinker at which he's throwing that pitch almost a quarter of the time, that heat map is middle. You can't live in college baseball being middle. You think you can get away with that in the major leagues? You're absolutely mistaken. That to me is the two on the left-hand column are the 2 biggest reasons as to why Taijuan Walker has struggled as much as he has this year.
Yeah. Okay. That's not great at all. Very concerning, Tyler, because listen, as we know, in hindsight, the issues that the Phillies have of it being Taijuan Walker, and we're going to get into the other issues. We're not going to talk about him the entire hour,
and by the way, Jeremy's right. The splitter can't end there. If it starts where the heat map is, that's a good pitch because it's probably going to drop you about 3 or 4 inches. And that's where you got guys, a good splitter and a good sinker, especially for a splitter-sinker combo pitcher like Walker is the type of guy who should induce ground balls at a ridiculously high rate. Yeah. Like I think about Derek Lowe back when he was with the Dodgers specifically. Derek Lowe was a really good sinker ball pitcher who you would just beat the ball into the turf. And like his shortstop and third baseman would have like 9 putouts apiece because he knew what he was doing. That's what a sinker ball splitter pitcher combination should be. The sinker's up, the splitter's up. That's a bad recipe. Yeah.
Not a recipe for success. That's for sure. Especially since, as we're talking about it, every team that's going up against whenever Taijuan Walker's on the mound is very aware of that as well. And you could see it from the jump yesterday. The playbook is out. They know how to attack Taijuan Walker early, and we saw St. Louis do it. And so with that, it does unfortunately, whenever the Phillies lose, we have to have these conversations about all the things that are frustrating, about all the things that we are nervous about and concerned about. I'm not hitting the panic button, guys. Some of you might be ready to do it. I'm still not hitting the panic button because, as you mentioned, Tyler, if we're talking about your 5th starter, no, we don't want to lose games behind Taijuan Walker, but I also don't expect this is going to continue. One of 2 things is going to happen. Either Taijuan Walker is going to get his shit together, or he's going to get his shit and get out. It's very simple. It's one or the other. Because
or we start a countdown clock till Andrew Painter can start throwing again.
2025.
Soon-ish?
No, it's only June. Happy June, but it's only June.
Listen, it's a not awful problem to have. We are going to complain about it because it is a complainable event, but it is not a bad problem to have. No. But you know what is a good thing to have, and that is an ice-cold Miller Lite. Now, Renee, last night before the game started, I was just sitting in my house. It was just me and the dog, and I went, you know what? I'm going to go sit outside for a little bit, sit out on my porch, my back porch. And I said, I'm going to grab a beer. So I went in my fridge and grabbed a Miller Lite because I was just sitting out there sipping a beer. And you know me, I'm a metal guy, right? But the weather was nice. Beautiful. I put my headphones in and I said, I'm going to listen to some country music today. And I had my Miller Lite, a couple country tunes. My dog was sitting out there with me. My dog was, pretending she's tough, even though she's not. But the thing is, I had my Miller Lite in hand because It's an easy drinking beer. It's light, it's refreshing, and it's only 96 calories. And when you're sitting out in the hot summer sun, as the days get longer and hotter, and we get into July and August, the dog days of summer, you're not going to want all of those heavy IPAs and heavy beers. You're going to want something that you can enjoy and not feel bloated, not feel like you've had 10 beers when you've only had one beer. And that's why I recommend going to get your Miller Lite, because you can get your Miller Lite just about anywhere that you can get beer. You get it at the beer distributor. You get it, now you can get it at some supermarkets. I know I'm waiting on, Pennsylvania to allow us to get it at gas stations and that kind of stuff, but we'll get there when we get there. But you can get Miller Lite just about anywhere that they sell beer. You can get it down the shore, up the mountains, having your barbecue with your tailgate, whatever it may be. Bring Miller Lite along with you, because you know that Miller Lite is going to be there for you. It's got great taste, less filling, and it's only 96 calories. And you don't have to choose what's best, because Miller Lite has great taste and is less filling. It tastes like Miller time. To get Miller Lite delivered right to your door, visit MillerLite.com/PHLY Phils, or you can find it pretty much anywhere that sells beer. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories per beer, fewer calories and carbs than premium regular beer.
All right, guys, and there's another refreshing option for you to drink, and that's the world's first functional soda that has a classic soda taste and the benefits of plant-based fiber, prebiotics, and other botanical ingredients to support your gut health. That's Olipop. Olipop is a new kind of soda with only 2 to 5 grams of sugar per can, about 9 grams of fiber per can. And what Olipop provides every single one of you that's watching us on Twitter, on YouTube, on Roku, depending on wherever you're streaming, here's what you get when you get Olipop. You get healthy benefits. I know I introduced my family to Olipop. They were just raving about how well, actually, technically, Tyler introduced my family to Olipop. Let's be honest.
They didn't have a choice. It was a sell. I was doing my job that day.
And my parents have been raving ever since about the great Olipop that Tyler, their new favorite, has introduced them to, because they have some really flavorful soda that you can try. They've got the classic grape, strawberry vanilla, cream soda, ginger ale, a tropical punch, which is so good. They've got the Dr. Goodwin, a cherry cola, lots of flavors for you. And then you have the benefits of having flexibility, because we love that. You can mix their root beer flavor with some ice cream for root beer float. Maybe you mix their lemon lime with some tequila or something for a nice mixed drink, or you just drink it straight as a refreshing soda. And regardless how you consume your Olipop, know that you're helping your gut health, because 2 out of 3 Americans are dealing with digestive health issues. And you can tackle that with Olipop, because although 95% of Americans are not getting their daily recommended amount of fiber, you don't have to be one of them with Olipop. So head on over to check out Olipop today. You've got plenty of ways to also buy them. You can use the code PHLY20, get 20% off of your next Olipop order, and that discount does apply to one-time orders, not subscription orders. Olipop is sold online on Amazon, online on drinkolipop.com, and it's also in 30,000 retailers nationwide, including Wawa, Target, Sprouts, GoPuff, Wegmans. As Tyler drinks his Olipop right now, look at that. Olipop. Delicious flavors. Love the cans. They're fun, they're delicious, and they're healthy and good for you. And in this day and age, you need all the healthy benefits you can, because let's be honest, sometimes it gets a little stressful out here. So at least you know you're drinking refreshing soda that can help you be stress-free and feel good, especially when you're taking in some baseball.
Well, you know that the PHLY is out of the grape one when I don't have it in my hand.
Oh no.
Because I pretty much have one every day.
You're addicted, actually. I can say in all honesty that Tyler is addicted to Olipop.
Funny? I'm not a big soda guy. Like, I don't crave traditional soda all that frequently, but I come here and I'm like, yup, another Olipop.
Oh, good Lord. All right, let's move along from Taijuan Walker, because we are gonna, continue to keep an eye on that. As we do know, Taijuan Walker currently is projected to get the start in London. And I'm wondering, my last bit on that, if, depending on how things go in London, are we going to start to have those serious conversations about the future for Taijuan Walker? Because time is ticking, and the Phillies have options out there. And one of those options, Spencer Turnbull, a.k.a. Bull, bet we all knew that nickname. So Spencer Turnbull did a tremendous job stepping in place of Ranger Suarez. We're going to continue to unpack the rest of this weekend, because as you guys are talking about in the chat, so many things to go around. As George is saying, Ty Walker should walk away. But let's unpack it. So yesterday, was an ALS game. We did have Lou Gehrig Day, which was fantastic to see around Major League Baseball. For the Phillies specifically.
By the way, Sarah Langs is the best.
Love Sarah Langs.
She's incredible.
Love the fact that she had so many people that she was getting hugs from and fist bumps from, and just all the love and support. And just here at PHLY Phillies, we also are sending our love and support to Sarah Langs and everybody that's doing their part to help raise money towards ALS, patient care, and research in support of Major League Baseball's Lou Gehrig Day. We saw $750,004 raised yesterday at Citizens Bank Park. Another tremendous showing in terms of attendance and showing in terms of donations. So that part was awesome to see. The Phillies are still one of the top run scoring teams across Major League Baseball. There are so many positives. I know we started with the negative on Taijuan Walker. I know we talked about, and we will get more into Spencer Turnbull, but the positives of this group, they are high scoring, which is a shift from earlier this season. They actually, as of Saturday, had the most 2-out runs this season behind just the Guardians with 123 2-out runs. And we saw that again on Sunday where they have, innings on the line, 2 outs, whoever's up delivers, and not only keeps the inning alive, but is helping to score runs with an RBI or even a home run. And so the Guardians sit number 1, but the Phillies are sitting right behind them, second in the league. Also, as I mentioned, as of Saturday's win, of course, I didn't update these numbers because I'm still a little fired up from Sunday's loss. But after Saturday's win, the Phillies were sitting plus 30 in the opening frame in terms of run differential. So that first inning, they had been a plus 30. So I guess technically they're now plus 28, if I can quickly do the math, of how much they're scoring in the first inning. And they lead the majors in runs scored at 48 and that run differential in the first inning. So this has been the positive. This is a team that consistently has been starting games really strong, minus when Taijuan Walker's on the mound, and getting ahead on their opponents. To be plus 30 now, plus 28, and have scored 48 runs in the first inning is tremendous. And as I mentioned, in about 65% of their games, they have scored first. So they are absolutely betting on themselves, Tyler. We've been seeing the focus is there. I know they had talked about it. There was mention of how the expectation is for everyone to just continue to be aggressive, but to also focus on being more disciplined. And we've seen that discipline at the plate directly correlate to scoring runs, winning games, and some great baseball. And I want to, before we continue with some negatives, sprinkle in a positive. Bryson Stott, we got the Garrett Stubbs shibby. Bryson Stott yesterday gave a fantastic in-game interview. It was fun to watch. We got to learn about Raffy, which another nickname. I'm not the only one, Tyler, coming up with nicknames.
No, but see, the difference is they're together every day and we're in the studio.
But it doesn't matter because...
A little bit different.
So the only thing I was a little disappointed about with Bryson Stott was as the inning ended, it was like 36 pitches we got to hear from Bryson Stott during the half inning. And it was great to hear him talking to us. And he's like, finally I get people talking back to me. As the inning ended and Yoro made a great play, Tyler, it was a prime opportunity after just telling us about Raffy. And he was like, he said something about that man's good. All he had to do was say, Yoro's good. You know, he missed his opportunity to let us know that they also call him Yoro. But anyways, mic'd up Bryson Stott did deliver, and he made some really good defensive plays. He also, as we know, was the one that helped tie the game up late. And I love the fact that Bryson Stott has continued to step up in moments when the team is struggling. You lose Brandon Marsh in the 8th inning. You lose, Cody Clemens and Edmundo Sosa scratched before the game start. You lose Ranger Saturday. As injuries are happening, Bryson Stott continues to show that he can step up when needed. And we saw that yet again from him. So that part was really fun to see that he was able to help keep, tie the game up, make some big plays. And then also defensively this weekend saw some beautiful plays from Bryson Stott.
So the defense is never going to be in question with Bryson Stott.
Shortstop, second base, doesn't matter.
The one thing, I can tell you, the one thing I did like to hear him say, because it's tough to play a position where you think you're better suited somewhere else.
Yeah.
To hear him say, I'm a second baseman. Now, he took it a step further and shouted his guy Trey Turner out, and we know that Trey Turner has at times some defensive lapses. Let's put it nicely because we're talking about the positives. I'm not entirely certain that Bryson Stott's not a better defensive shortstop than Trey Turner. But the point being, I know for a fact that Bryson Stott is an elite defensive second baseman. And so for him to say, I'm a second baseman now, gives me a lot of, I don't want to say excitement because that's kind of what we all been thinking, but a lot of reassurance to know that this guy is committed to the position. Now, he's willing to play short when they need him to, as he has with Trey Turner being absent and prior to signing Trey Turner. And I know that he can play that position at an adequate level. But I do know for a fact that Bryson Stott is a good shortstop. Bryson Stott is an elite defensive second baseman. Like, he's going to be in the Gold Glove category just about every year. When I think about second baseman in the National League, I'm penciling in two guys, and it's Bryson Stott and it's Nico Horner every year defensively for that Gold Glove position. Now, the third one's going to fluctuate because the third one should be Ha-Sung Kim, but the Padres move him around just as much as the Dodgers moved Mookie Betts around prior to this season. So I don't know. I mean, he's, obviously their shortstop this year because they flipped Ian Bogarts. But those three guys to me are the three best defensive second basemen in the league or in the National League. So to have Bryson Stott recognize the fact that he is a really, really good defensive second baseman gives me a little bit of reassurance. Yeah,
and it was these guys know what to say at all times. It was the right thing to say also of like...
you're not going to throw your teammate under the bus mid-interview. That's
the question that, maturity shows just how well aware you are of what you're saying and how you're saying it to showcase, no, the guy that plays this spot every day, when he gets back, this is going to be his spot in Trey Turner. So yes, I love the fact that we got to that moment from Bryson Stott because it was fun to see him talking about the team, who would watch his child, his baby girl, Edmundo Sosa, surprising number 2 behind Bryce Harper and Bryce Harper's nanny. But also just to see him have that moment
Bryce
Harper's nanny, to see him drive in 2 runs to tie the game in the 5th. We saw, again, Garrett Stubbs did it in the 3rd inning, it would have been. And so it was great to see, or 2nd, I'm sorry. It was great to see that the Phillies did have those moments because, to be honest, guys, we haven't seen a lot of losses at Citizens Bank Park. And as John pointed out... We haven't
seen a lot of losses, period.
We haven't seen a lot of losses, period, but especially at Citizens Bank Park. So the Phillies actually have only lost 3 times in the last 23 home games. And then that loss yesterday did snap their 8-game winning streak at Citizens Bank Park.
Is 20-3 good?
I would say so.
Yeah, I think it's pretty good.
I would say so. So again, I know it's hard because a loss leaves a bad taste in your mouth, but when you really look at it, it was fantastic to see. It's been fantastic to see how this group continues to talk about each other. Dave P's not a fan of the interviews during the games or intermissions. I'm not either, but I don't think there's a time that really makes sense in baseball. In other sports, they typically do it between quarters. But let's be honest, with baseball, the way that the game is, when else are you going to get sounds like this except post-game? Or if they pre-record a pregame like they did with Mason Wynn and they dropped it in the start of the show. But it's not the same. To be honest, there are a lot of people I feel like that enjoy that authentic live conversation. It's not great, but I think it's the best you can do. It's just in his ear. It's not like he's holding a microphone or anything.
Well, and I will say, too, I think that the brevity of the situation most of the time allows for a couple of questions in and out. Last night was a drag.
It was a drag.
Because it was a 33-pitch inning for Taijuan Walker. He gives up the home run. And it's hard not to – I got to imagine for Carl Ravitch and Cone and Eddie up in the booth, they're sitting there going, damn, what do we ask this guy? His pitcher just gave up a bomb. Hey, who do you like in a band? And then – because, if I were a player and things weren't going well – you're always, because you heard him a couple times.
You know how it would be.
You heard him a couple times. Hey, let's go, Ty. Great spot. He was hyping his guy up, and that's what you do. But at some point, I'd be like, guys, I'm sorry. My guy just gave up a moonshot. This is a 30. Can you let me go?
Yeah.
So I get it. Normally, if it's 10 pitches, 15 pitches, you get a couple questions, you get the ask the audience question in and out, boom, boom, you're done.
Right.
Last night was a little bit of a drag.
Yeah, and that was it was very unique. It's not usually that long of the interview being done, but it still was great because Bryson gave you all great answers. Again, we got a new nickname out of it in Rafi, which actually makes complete sense. Love that nickname. But also some other positives for you guys. For the 147 seasons of Phillies baseball, this is just the 3rd time that they've reached 40 wins in the first 60 games. And the Phillies, the last 2 years, were below 500 in June.
Screw you, Joe Girardi.
Yeah. So to see the fact that this group is one of the best teams in baseball, of course, them and the Yankees, the first two teams to 40 wins this weekend, and have been, consistently winning games compared to where they were in the past 2 years, digging holes in the NL where they're chasing the Braves. Instead, now they are significantly over 500. It's been great to see. And as we talked about Friday post-game, 20 wins in the month of May was the most since September 2010. They had a 2.62 team ERA, the best since June 2011. They, as a team, their bullpen had a 2.13 ERA for May. Their starters had a 2.88 ERA for May. And overall, that 2.62 team ERA, the best and the first time, I should say, to be sub-3 since 1985, June of 1985. And they did lead Major League Baseball in May with 5.7 runs per game. Lots of positives. Again, Taijuan Walker in the loss soiled it a little bit for us. But it was great to see all of these moments that we're learning about, because this has been a really good group. And a big part of that has been that next player up mentality. And when you have one pitcher in Ranger Suarez who has a 1.7 ERA in the season, and the only guy that has a better ERA than him in Major League Baseball is Spencer Turnbull, who's in the bullpen, and now comes in Saturday with Ranger Suarez out to perform and get another scoreless outing. These are good problems to have, because most teams, if a pitcher goes down, whether it's your 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, they might be scrambling a little bit. Ranger goes down on that comebacker. That was a painful looking play. And as Ranger was saying, he's just happy it wasn't worse. Could have hit a bone, could have been worse. In that moment, Spencer Turnbull and the bullpen in general, it became a bullpen game. They delivered, they took care of business. And now that if Ranger Suarez is unable to pitch in London this weekend like he was projected to start, it should be Spencer Turnbull, who's had a 1.67 ERA over 6 starts to begin the season, that he can get the call up again and just be able to start in the London series. Yeah,
and don't expect 6 innings from him. If he does get the start, he's not stretched out to be a quote starter again. Mm-hmm. But if you can get 4, right, I think that you'll probably take that, because if you can get 4, that allows you to set up the rest of the front end of your bullpen a little bit better than what it would if he only gives you 2. And I think that plays into something that you brought up earlier, Renee, which was the team's ability to score in the first inning. If you jump out to a lead, that alleviates some of that tension of how many innings can Spencer Turnbull give you if he was to make a spot start without a full, stretch out situation. And to put it into perspective with those runs scored in the first inning, the Phillies right now are averaging 0.8 runs per first inning. Basically, they're getting to a point where they're closing in on almost scoring 1 run per 1 inning, first inning played. To put that into perspective, do you remember how good the Braves were last year with first inning runs? They were pummeling teams from the first pitch, and that had to do in part because Ronald Acuna was jumping on first pitch fastballs all the time, and they were historically good offense. Now, granted, this is a 60 game sample size at 0.8 versus 162 game sample size, but the Atlanta Braves last year, in the regular season, averaged 0.88 runs per first inning. The Phillies are not on that far away off that pace. Now, granted, again, that's 100 more games played, so to do that over the course of 162 versus 60 is enormously different. But to put it into perspective of how good the Phillies have been on jumping on pitching early, they're basically averaging almost 1 run per first inning played.
Yep. And the great thing about it is the way that the Phillies are playing offensively, although there might be, we saw like the West Coast series, which was just a weird offensive series, back-to-back series for them against the Rockies and the Giants. Consistently this season, though, the Phillies have been finding ways to keep innings alive, finding ways to score runs, and we saw that again yesterday. You look at that 5th inning, and the first 4 at-bats for the 5th inning where they tied the game up, you had a 38.8 mile per hour bunt, a 45.6 mile per hour bunt, an 82.6 mile per hour hit, and a 79.9 mile per hour hit. Those are the exit velocities. And in that stretch, Stubbs and Rojas bunts, you get them on base. Kyle Schwarber gets a single to load the bases. And then here comes Bryson Stott helping to tie the game up with a game-tying 2-run single. It's not home run or bust with this group. They have been finding different ways to be able to, for the most part, win games. And as Sarah Langs had pointed out, They were, prior to yesterday's loss, 7 for 15 when trailing by multiple runs. So now 7 for 16. So around a 467 winning percentage when they're down to be able to come back. And that's something you can bet on, that the Phillies always find a way to score runs, to come back. And as I said at the beginning of the show, to have in the course of this season, 6 of your 19 losses in extra innings and 7 of the losses by 1 run says a lot about how this team is playing games. Even when they're losing, they're battling. It's not them just getting blown out. It's not them just having an awful game. It's just been 1 or 2 things, the intent in the 10th inning, the ghost runner, whatever it may be, that's the difference. But it's been fixable things. Taijuan Walker, fixable. The issues offensively at times, fixable. So we're seeing them continue to find ways to make those tweaks.
Bet on, you say? Did you do that intentionally?
I did.
Yeah, how about that? Well, if you're going to bet on this game, and one of the things you may want to get in on is they call it the YRFI. And what that stands for is yes run first inning. And if Taijuan Walker's pitching, you might want to hammer the YRFI. And you can get that with our friends at the Bet Parks Sportsbook app, because we are brought to you by the Bet Parks app. You can get in the zone, and the money is in the moment. You got a ton of events coming up, Renee. Not just baseball around the league, but you've got both championship series coming up in the next couple of days. I believe in 3 days the NBA playoffs begin, and in 6 days you've got, or the playoffs, excuse me, the finals begin, and then just a couple days later you've got the Florida Panthers and the Edmonton Oilers in what is going to be the biggest discrepancy in travel history in postseason play when you go from Edmonton to Sunrise, Florida. But you've got all of that to get in on the Bet Parks Sportsbook app. You know that you can get in on all of the action, whether you want to bet the series, you want to bet game 1, or if you want to bet in the action of yes run first inning when Taijuan Walker takes the mound in London. I would consider that a burn series. I wouldn't play it at all, but if you're interested, probably consider a lot of runs and a lot of overs, because these things tend to happen when you get into these international games where it's a lot of travel, legs are tired, pitching's difficult. Might want to consider it, especially on Sunday if Taijuan Walker is going to take the mound. And you win your first $10 bet, and you will earn $125 in sports bonus bets on the Bet Parks Casino and Sportsbook app. You play for fun. You love to win. Download the app and play along with us. You do have to be 21 or older. Please gamble responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
All right. K-Red was like, I knew that had to be a segue, and you are correct.
You're quite good at it.
Thank you.
Of your many strengths, that's definitely one of them.
Well, I try to tee it up for you guys. I'm good with the lob, so you can easily, slam it home. But listen, you guys have a chance to join us for some fun this upcoming weekend, because as the Phillies prepare to take on the Mets in London, we will be down having some fun at Gall & Co. We'll be at the Port Richmond and the Rockledge. I had to think of the name for a second. The Rockledge location. So on Sunday, we'll be bright and early down at the Port Richmond location, where you guys can join us for brunch. Sunday Fun Day brunch. And then Saturday, we'll be at the Rockledge location. That's a nice afternoon fun time. There I am. It's me. And you guys can join us for that watch party. We'll be doing a pregame show and a postgame show live at Gall & Co. There also will be some Miller Lite specials. We're giving away some tickets and some delicious food there. Gall & Co.'s got the Wit or Witowski, which is a kielbasa cheesesteak that is to die for, that you get to check out. It's a free event. The food is not free, but you can show up, of course, for free and be able to hang out with us. We also have our first annual Liberty Open. That's right. You can golf with us at PHLY on July 13th, which will be here before we know it. We'll be out at Valley Brook Country Club in Blackwood, New Jersey for our PHLY first annual Liberty Open. Those details are on allphly.com, where you can sign up as a single, foursome, or sponsor a whole and be able to join in on the fun for the tournament. We've got gifts and tea prices. We've got some dinner. We've got some food there for you guys, some contests. So it'll be a very fun day. So plenty that's going on in the upcoming months for you guys that you can check out, and always continue to follow, whether you're checking us out on Twitter or online or anything social media. But of course, becoming diehard to get discounts to those events and be able to get the early scoop on when events are dropping as a diehard member. So check all that information out at allphly.com as we are rolling through the fun times here. Fun times in store for this summer. Now, as we know, and there's, again, let me actually ask this before we move on to the next series, because we've talked so much about the London series. We've got a big series coming up this weekend. And as we know, it is the return. It is the return.
A real baseball game?
Rhys Hoskins back to Citizens Bank Park. Yes, the Milwaukee Brewers are in town. The Brewers are sitting top of the National League Central right now with a 36-23 record. So they are above 500. And as Philly 007 was saying in the chat, no, we are not booing Rhys Hoskins. What do we think? But here's my question. I don't expect a full-on boo because it's not his fault he's gone. And he was great here in his 10 seasons that he was here. But I'm wondering, are we getting a standing ovation? Yeah. Are we getting just some scattered applause?
No.
Most likely there will be a video playing for Rhys Hoskins. So I'm expecting in that moment a nice, Rhys wave, some innovation in that sense. And I think that's it, though.
Yeah,
we welcome him back, and
I think he's going to get a video. He's going to get a moment to step out and tip the helmet.
Yeah, some handshakes possibly.
There's going to be. He's one of the most beloved figures of that. Of this stretch so far, and it's. I think that Jamie loves Rhys Hoskins, where to the point where if he were here, he'd probably be giving me crap for, I don't want, and again, I'm going to say this. I like Rhys Hoskins. I think Rhys Hoskins was a very good ball player here. I am not in that over the top celebratory route, but what I am going to say is you're going to get a lot of pomp and circumstance for Rhys Hoskins. He's one of the more beloved characters here. He's got, he was an energy guy, a good clubhouse guy, and he was a good ball player, and he hit some really timely home runs in that playoff stretch. The bat spike is the big one, obviously. Yeah. But I think that, the one against Lance McCullers after, Falter struggled to start the game and they come right back against McCullers and get to him. You're going to see that. I think that was the one against McCullers was a home run as well. But the one against Clevenger, the one where Falter struggled and then Clevenger came in and gave him right back. All of that's going to be montage. There's going to be a lot of pomp and circumstance for Rhys Hoskins, and it's deservedly so. He's he was a major cog in the Phillies getting to the World Series. It's unfortunate how his time with the team ended. Bryce Harper obviously moving to first was a better move for the team than re-signing Rhys Hoskins, and there's going to be a lot of fanfare and love for him.
Yeah, and I don't care what you guys say in the chat. Mopar and who was it? Mopar was the main one that was saying it about not counting his time in the minor leagues. He was just drafted by the Phillies in 2014. And that's like you guys saying if Aiden Bauer Miller or Justin Crawford stays with the Phillies for 6 years in the majors and then moves on, you're not going to count those years. Yes, we will. Well, I'm counting those years. He was drafted by the Phillies. He was a part of the Phillies pipeline. 2017, he made his official debut in the majors, but he was still a part of the Phillies family. And the minor league is part of the Phillies. That's like the JV to the varsity. That's the second team to the start, the top team. We're counting that. And also, most importantly, as you guys are talking about the bat spike and those big moments, helping the Phillies get to the playoffs, winning playoff series, all that is Rhys Hoskins, and he's such a big part of Phillies history that he will get a nice moment.
Mopar made a good point. He and his wife Jamie did a lot of good work around the community.
Yeah, they did. That's another
part. This team as a whole is pretty philanthropic. They do a pretty good job. Aaron Nola's pretty invested. Kyle Schwarber's pretty invested. And I think, Jim makes a good point where he was that dude on the bad Phillies team when they started to kind of ascend back into prominence. Because if you remember, he took the league by storm when he came up. I think it was 6 home runs in his first 13 at bats or something whatever the number was. It was a ridiculous number. He's going to get a deserved standing ovation. There's no doubt about it.
He will. And Rhys has been off to a good start so far with Milwaukee, where he's got 9 home runs on the season, 17 runs total, 34 hits, 27 RBIs, a stolen base in his 142 at-bats. And for the Milwaukee Brewers as a whole, some things to keep an eye on as we're looking into the game tonight to start the series. They've been good. They've been good. Christian Yelich they've been very good. Christian Yelich has a 67 total bases, slashing a 325, 413, 558. William Contreras, ever since Wilson went down, William's been on a tear. I think in honor of his brother's arm injury. He's also been doing a good job at the top of the lineup. Joey Ortiz, Rhys Hoskins, Willie Adames. Willie and Rhys have combined for 18 home runs. The Brewers are a good team, and they've been fighting a lot. There's been a lot of, I feel like, we've seen, if there's a stat for the amount of times that, benches have cleared and we've seen guys out of the dugout, out of the bullpen, face to face, it's the Brewers. It happened again that we saw them. I'm blanking on the name of.
It was Tommy Pham.
Yes, Tommy Pham, who they are getting in the face of, but it was yet again. It's the Brewers. It's been the Brewers a lot, actually. So I want to know, Tyler, over under on the chances of us, for as much as this series is going to start with some fanfare, with the video and the standing ovation, I actually feel like we're going to get a fight at some point in this series.
I don't think you're going to get one this weekend, but I will say this: the Brewers have been very chippy. They've started a lot of stuff this year. This one in particular, Tommy Pham came way up the line. He shouldn't have been running in that portion of the line. Yeah. Contreras also didn't need to wave at his face and
you mean right after he got up to be in his face,
right after he got thrown out by a million miles. Like there was
wagging
a lot,
the glove.
There was a lot to it that didn't need to happen, and I think that it was just a boiling over point for a guy who's been a consummate who's been a professional over the course. There's been some issues with Tommy Pham over the course of the years, but who's been a professional for a really long time. And I think it was a boiling over point for a guy who's on a team that is 30 games under 500, 60 games into the year. I think that was just an emotional point where those two guys probably needed to just back away from each other.
Yeah.
I'm not putting blame on either of them. I'm putting blame on both of them.
I think for both it makes sense because Tommy Pham already is upset because Chicago's not doing well and losing games. So in general, there's frustration. I feel like for anybody on the White Sox, #FreeHerb, anybody with White Sox has frustration every time they're playing. And then for in that moment for Contreras, you're protecting yourself. You just saw your brother get injured a few weeks ago. And I think that the Brewers, though, are a team that, low-key, they don't back down. They're going to get in your face. We saw it happen with the Mets. We've seen it happen with the White Sox. There were, I think, two others that they had nobody has fought or swung, but it's been some face-to-face benches clearing moments. So I'm interested to see if that's going to happen this series with the Phillies.
I don't think you're going to get anything like that. I think you'll be okay.
We'll see. We shall see. I will say, though, what we do know we will see is Zach Wheeler's going to get the start today, which will be great to see him back out there. For all the frustrations of Taiwan, don't worry, we're back to Zach. And so Zach Wheeler gets to go. For the Brewers, originally they were listed as a TBD on who's starting.
TBD's getting a lot of innings this week.
But there's the potential of it being Bryce Wilson who's going to start for them. Bryce Wilson has allowed 18 runs in 48 innings pitched and has a .445 expected opponent slugging percentage. He hasn't been great. Opponents are doing a good job of pounding the ball against him, driving and run. So seems like the Brewers maybe aren't sure who's going to start yet, but it possibly will be Wilson. Regardless who's starting for the Brewers, should be a good chance for the Phillies to get this series going the right way. It's important, I think, to win game one. This is a team, as I know Philly 007 saying in the chat, over 500. Show that you can beat teams over 500. The next 2 months, this summer stretch, they're going to be facing a lot of teams that are over 500. Well, not a lot. There's not that many over 500, to be honest. But they're going to be facing a handful of teams that are over 500. And when you have a chance to prove the narrative wrong, Phillies, please do it. We're not sure what's going to happen with Brandon Marsh because we are, as of this moment, we're not sure of the status of Brandon Marsh. But I know Tyler and I, as we were talking before the show, there is anticipation from at least our side that's if it's as a hamstring injury,
I'm expecting an IL stint.
Yeah, I think that he's going to be out for a little while. Hopefully for Edmundo Sosa and Cody Clemens, the back spasms for Cody hopefully aren't that serious, and maybe we're just that one day, or some that's more manageable. And then hopefully Sosa's injury, his hamstring, is not as bad either. Injuries are a part of the game. This is the time we'll see. Is it going to be a Weston Wilson? Is it going to be, David Dahl? Who's going to get the call up for the Phillies if Marsh is placed on the IL? Lots to look for because this is the time that the depth is absolutely going to be tested. You can have Spencer Turnbull come in to replace Ranger Suarez. If he's unable to start in the London series, which we're expecting, can you also see that same depth happen around, the field for the Phillies in terms of who takes the next step for them if Marsh is unable to play, if Sosa's unable to play? Next man up. Last thought from you, Tyler, as we get ready to wrap up here.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun series this week, and you've got Wheeler to kick things off. Of course, I have been to 4 Phillies games this year now, and every single one of them has been started by Christopher Sanchez. I will be there tomorrow, so naturally, Chris Sanchez is going to get the start. Well, this is number 4 for me. This is a good series this weekend. So it's a good Brewers team right now. It's the best team in baseball. I'd love to see 2 out of 3, and anything. I think that London's going to be a crapshoot. London, I think it's all hands off type of situation. Anything could happen. This is going to be a really fun series this week, though.
It will be. It will be. The fun gets started tonight. We'll look forward to it and see what happens as Rhys Hoskins returns to Citizens Bank Park. Will he get a full-on standing ovation, as Linda's saying? Not an overboard ovation, but a semi-ovation like we've seen in the past for guys like Pat Burrell in 2010. So lots to look forward to as Zach Wheeler gets to start for the Phillies tonight. We'll be back live again tomorrow, 11 a.m. Jamie will be back. He is actually, as Mopar was saying in the chat, he is out at the Eagles for the Eagles show, hanging with our crew and being able to enjoy the fun at Brian Dawkins' golf outing. So he'll be back tomorrow. We'll have to give him some shit for missing us the last week. But most importantly, thank you guys for being here. We appreciate every single one of you. Bucket Getter, Ray, Mopar, Linda, K-Red, Greg, MC, Philly 007, everybody in the chat. Hit that thumbs up button on the way out. We'll see you back here tomorrow for more live on PHLY Phillies Podcast. Go Phils.
We all silly like the mayor.